Hello, this is Einar from Unity Web TV. Today we have Siegmar Gerken here from Germany.
From the USA, I live in California.
Yes, but you have a German dialect.
I am German, but I moved in 1986 to California.
Okay, so you both Californian and everything?
I'm American and German.
Yes. Yeah. Gerken is a psychologist and a lot of other things. He's into Buddhism, Zen, mindfulness, Anthropology, and he's all over the place. So I'm struggling to keep this simple. So my first question is, first I can say we're going to talk about love, sexuality and relationships. It's super interesting. And Siegmar, he is expert on this field and has had lots of clients, courses all over the world. So I think we can get some interesting answers here. So first of all, what is love? Can you have an easy explanation on that one?
I think the explanation that you hear from me is a little bit different than you may have in mind, since I take love a little bit out of the romantic idea. For me, love is a resonance with the flow of life. And when we are capable to perceive the flow of life in us, then we perceive it as pleasure. And when we are in a state of pleasure and in a state of love, then we have the knowledge of life in us and want to communicate from that place. And this kind of free flow of love, or we call it something unconditional love in the spiritual world, is there, but of course we take that love in, and in that moment we can feel that flow in us, and I can say, I include you in my love. In that moment when we make it personal, I love you and I want to live life with you, then we have to deal also with the personality, and there it moves then also into a therapeutic aspect. That means, how does the personality form? And what kind of issues come up and what difficulties come up, and that's what we mostly face in couple therapy or in individual therapy. How is the free flow of life, the free flow of love here in that respect, interrupted, distorted? How do we face difficulties? How do we face intrusions into our integrity from early development on? And that is what we study and teach and what we utilize in our work, in couple work and in therapy.
But when you're in a relationship, in the first stage you're in love and everything's great, and after a while you start feeling guilt, manipulation, power fights, envy, attachment, dependency. What is that? Where did that come from? What can we do with that?
You bring up here many topics that would almost take weeks to explain them in their developmental issues. So we got to make it short. I understand.
Yes, it's going to be a short one.
So, it always, as I mentioned before, comes out of the distortion of the free flow of the experience of life. And then I would need to go into developmental issues. That means, what is the relationship that you have from your early days on in your family, in society, your experiences that you have in your social environment, in your school, your early sexual experiences, how do you develop your body, and all these images that we build around that. They form us, and they form in the way how we interact. If you have an abandonment issue and you have a partner that may flirt or pulls its energy away or even physically away, you may fall into a deep hole and have some depression, you know. Or you feel, in that moment when I need the person, just had a client again an hour ago, felt I need the person, I cannot be without it. So then we need to explore, what does that mean, you cannot be without it? That means, well, how is a dependency created? So in that respect, I always tell people, after you have worked with me, you will never fall in love again. So, because I want to make sure you step into love and you don't fall into love. That means you come from an inner conscious place of clarity that says, yes, I feel my love in you and I want to share that with you. I want to be with you. That's a commitment. Commitment means I am also open and willing to explore. And that not only explore the good side of relationship, that explores what are the difficulties that we face. How are we coming together? Sometimes in a provocative statement I say a relationship is resonance and agreement and arrangements. So as soon we have the resonance, it's wonderful, we feel for each other, and then comes a small print of the personality. So that means how do we arrange ourselves?
Because that's what you're working with then.
That's what I work
Yeah.
with.
So in a relationship, when these things come up, it's then it's a kind of problem that you have. It's a trauma or something then that you take care of.
It can be a trauma, and it can be, as we differentiate, shock traumas that you may have through incidents that were very traumatic in a momentary way, or you have a developmental trauma that means in your personal development in your childhood. And all this is woven almost as a fabric of life, and we all have suffered shock and developmental traumas, and in that respect we got to see how that has formed your image of yourself and of the other that comes to you. Because everybody carries a certain image for us, whether it reminds you of your father, your mother, of teachers, or important people in your life that have been there. And when they trigger moments in you, and that can be on all levels of our experience. That means auditory, it can be by smell, it can be triggered by, of course, visual input. People remind you. So, and by touch, all our senses have the capacity to trigger something in us. And in that moment when we react to a person, to the environment, and we don't feel positive about it, then we have a personal reaction in us. It's totally independent of the partner. When we're not becoming aware of that, we project that on the partner.
Yes.
And in that moment the interaction is already colored by your own distortions that you carry, not anymore free. That means the love is interrupted. You cannot just say, you know what, I love you, and I feel I have some difficulties right now because this and this and this is going on in me. And you trigger part of that. So I have a great exercise sometimes for that, when I let couples sit together and do a certain communication, then they become aware, wow, I never seen that in you and I never heard that from you. Knowing that makes it much easier for me to relate to you and communicate. Or I will share more with you about myself so you can understand me better. As children, we want to be seen by our parents. See me, love me, feel my feelings. As adult, we need to communicate about it. So it's not anymore that the partner, it's not a good mind reader anymore, the partner, even though we wish so.
What if when all the traumas, all the difficulties, all the guilt, all this is dealt with, you say you don't fall in love again.
Step into love. You don't
is it
fall
more
into
that
love.
you get more in love with yourself then?
That, I think, it would be the first step to find your self-love. Not in a narcissistic way or in a selfish way, but you feel yourself. That's what I call a self-love. Oh, I'm in contact with myself. If I'm not in contact with myself, how can I be in contact with the other? So that means maybe, whoa, I feel attracted by you. But what is attracted? Who is attracted? Are you sexually attracted, or is there a resonance where I feel, and I see you? If we are attracted, very often we don't see the other person anymore in its totality, in the appearance. So in that moment, it will never be fully worked through when you say when all guilt is taken away. It's not so much that we can take it away, that we have more insights into it, and we are not immediately triggered, but become aware, oh, I'm reacting right now, and let me shift that, because I care for that person, I care for you. In that moment I can also say, you know what, I feel we can't live that love that we have. So it's too difficult to live it, and some people then have to separate. And I try to work then with them how they can separate in love, so that we can stay in the care for each other and see the reality that some things cannot be lived. But in general, people come to gain more understanding about their lives and how they can bring the love more toward each other.
Attraction, the special attraction when you fall in love and all these things. Eckhart Tolle,
you step in love.
Step in love. Eckhart Tolle talked about your pain bodies. He meant that when all the traumas are energy fields around you, and he talked about that one of your pain bodies, one of your traumas, attracts the pain body of the other person. If you like to be hit, you attract one that likes to hit, and so on. Is that something that's you can talk about?
I didn't coin that term, and I don't know what experience he had on that level. I understand to a certain degree what he would mean, because I do research about that and how we hold images of pain in our system. So that interesting research, if I would meet him, I would love to show him that research. So yeah, but then we go over on a subtle energy communication level. Whatever we hold in our system, we also radiate. Even we try, we protect it, nobody can see me, can read me, I feel then the protection, I feel the withholding, or I feel the underlying anger, I feel the underlying pain, and if I resonate to that, then I sense it. That means we are empathic, or we are compassionate. Then we can sense these kind of moments, and even on unconscious level, we constantly do. For me, as an energetic-oriented and body-oriented therapist, it's wonderful in all my travels to be at the airports, to be at stations, and look at people, and knowing to a certain degree when that person does that move and sits next to that person, I will see immediately, I know, okay, this person will react like that, and immediately a second later it happens, because that's how we energetically communicate. And if you see couples in a restaurant, then you know, okay, they know each other for a while and it's not so happy. And then you see other couples, they're just ready, and even if they don't talk, and there's an energy exchange. And then you see the couples that also reach over and touch. So how do we express our energy and our life toward each other is to express the intention, I want to exchange with you. So that and that, in that moment you already overcome, so to say, a body that is in pain. You overcome whatever he defines it, a pain body. Pain is, and the body is something I work with as a body-oriented mindfulness and its therapist constantly. But to also document it to my students and to a psychiatric world or to any world outside of our knowledge, that's who I do the research and show how we hold these images in our system, you know. And that's good, so more we are clear, so more we can allow the flow. Meditation alone cannot do that. And therapy alone cannot do that. It must be all of that. So whatever people do to open up their system, whether they begin with singing or with this exercise or that exercise or sitting, it's all wonderful, but at the end we got to bring all our levels of existence together. The body, the feeling capacity, the thinking cognitive capacity to integrate these insights, and with that bring the will into action. And then it's not anymore the will of the ego. By that moment it's what I call, it's the will of the heart. So it's not anymore the limited personality that we are living in. By that time we have a larger understanding, and we can move our life and expression with the will of the heart. That means I want to communicate. That's the same with love. When you say I love you, how do I feel that? What do you do for it? Love itself we don't need to do anything for. But in a relationship, it's a flame. And if we don't get a log and put it on the fire, it stays a flame. It will never be a fire.
But how do we keep it, the fire going? Is it communications and Is that
all of it? Whatever the log stands for. The log may be communication, the log may be loving sexuality, that log may be loving caring, that log may be, wow, I see you're really having a hard time right now, what can I do for you? Or all of that keeps the relationship going from sharing that flow, sharing that understanding for the other, and with that the communication can take place on many levels, but it's a care we give to the other from the understanding of our own free flow of love. If I'm tight and just hold you out of duty, the person cannot feel the flow of love. They may feel okay and feel good you are here, but then after they don't need that content anymore, then it's also, there's no incentive to exchange. But if I feel your care and I feel that love is flowing, then I want to communicate. I mean, I feel love for you, but I'm not in love with you, but I feel love for you. And it's beautiful, you know. I mean, I know you for years, and I know you're a wonderful person. I feel at ease. My body is flowing. I'm not tense with you. So if you have a great radiation, so that is an exchange. So in that moment now, when you do that with your partner, and you can keep that, and that partner does not come and create issues in you, then we got to observe, what does it do with me? I contract, I hold, I have some anger, I want to escape, I need my time, and then to have that openness, the clarity and the inner strength to say, you know what, honey, I need now have our time out. I would like to communicate about that problem, but in the moment I feel attacked, I feel you're not listening, and I work with that in me. I don't want to give it back to you right way. That when communication breaks down, when we act from our unconscious anger that you have, and in that moment when we can take care of ourselves, reconnect with ourselves, come back from a place of care and see, so let us see what we need to communicate, finding out how can we intensify the love, or what is the difficulty right now, and we got to be honest to where are we right now. That is an honest communication.
Yeah.
And that is how you keep the love going.
But for people that's not good in communicating with words,
then
that's a big problem with men, and lots of men, and also it's not good at communicating the feelings.
I don't take that. So then if there's a willingness to meet the other person, then you got to also face your own limitations. And when you face your own limitations, only love can bring you to that place to say, and I want to change it. Self-love and the love for the other person. Because you may say, you know what, I'm not good with communication, but I'll care and love for you. Any other person, any woman will understand that and feel that, because you will act like that. And then maybe it doesn't need much the words. But if there's conflict and you don't communicate and withdraw, there's no rescue, there's no communication, there's no capacity for meeting place. So where shall we meet them?
Yeah.
Some people still have sex, and let that be the communicator. And if that works for you, then people can live that. I only know after 37 years of marriage, we want it all. We want communication, we want a loving care, we want sexuality, we want joy, we want dance. We want to experience life in its fullest. And every couple have to find its own way how that would be for them. There's no right or wrong in that moment when love is involved. Then it's a choice.
What is passion? Where does passion come from?
I tell you, again, I will not disappoint you, but I come from the understanding of life energy. And passion for me is the capacity to move life. That's passion. And that's why I come from a very passionate way in working with my clients and doing my work. Whenever I feel there's a stuckness, there's stagnation, I offer myself to be of help in moving life back into this person's profession, personal life, and so on. So passion then combined with romance, or with romanticism, maybe all what you can envision under the old understanding of passion. You have the poetry, you have the guitar playing under the balcony, you have the tango that I also dance and go 3 times a year to Argentina. So all that, you live with a certain understanding, and if you understand the difference, passion has the capacity to move life, then you feel again the flow of love, and then you can look at things and feel, I enjoy life in its fullest. That's what we do in Zen. You know, even you sit totally still and you feel life is moving in me. It's very passionate. You can have passionate Zen wonderfully in its stillness. So
passion isn't just in love affairs. Passion is
for sure not a fair.
Yeah, so passion is a life force.
Yeah.
But to open up for the passion, you have to get rid of lots of your traumas and things. And
see, I never get rid of something because I like always to open situation. So, but to be invited into passion, that's a great opening. It's a gateway. So we need sometimes gateways. Let's say you haven't been in a relationship for years, or you feel I have a bad day, and then all of a sudden you see something that triggers you, a nice woman or a child laughing or whatever, and you feel, or a flower, and you feel, oh, life is back, you know. And then you feel you want to intensify that. And then we got to see how we can keep that passion. The passion, to keep passion as a flow of life, as an expression of intensity of life, is breathing, is allowing the joy in your system. And how do you do that? That means also you need to also positive thinking, but not just as a thinking, mechanical thinking. That thinking comes derived from your body, from the perception of life. If you say, I love you, but I don't see it in your eyes, in your body, then it's an idea. It's not a radiance. So, and we got to differentiate that. And that's why I'm not so fond of just changing your thinking, changing your thoughts. That's all great and part of it. But it can be also a belief system. And belief system leads into the greatest distortions that we have in the world. And we have struggled and we see the difficulties all over the globe. So if your understanding and thinking is connected to your own flow of life, in resonance with the acceptance of every life that says, what we call in Buddhism, to care for all sentient beings, not wanting to do harm, and understand what that means, then you are in the pure radiance of love. You're pure in the radiance, you are passionate. Dalai Lama, a very passionate man. So, and so it's not, for sure not with affairs. Your passionate is not counted by the number of affairs you may have. Your passion is by the aliveness you can express with a little child, with whatever you do in life. And that I call walking Zen. Whatever needs to be done from a place of care, understanding and love, that I call passionate. And you are very passionate for your work you are doing. You're passionate to facilitate for a lot of people here. So it's that...
Yeah, that's one passion.
Yeah, one of your passions, right, yeah. So that means you move life, you move energy. And you have the capacity for that. And you may want to move that into another aspect of your life.
Okay, what do you think about marriage? Is that important? When you really meet somebody you love, you talk about concepts. In lots of countries you have to get married if you find a loved one. Is that important in your world?
See, I mean, I had good times in the 70s and 80s, you know, so I know the different attitudes that we held. Who needs to be married? It's just a governmental situation. And you know what? form can never create love. Love can be in any form. If you make the decision for whatever reason, you want to be married. In America, marriage is a big thing, you know. The young kids love to spend $30,000–$50,000 for their wedding, you know. Sometimes they divorce and they haven't paid off the loan for the wedding. So, and if you look at the world, we have 50% of divorce rate in the Western world. So that only because we have the freedom to choose, or the freedom of sexuality, it does not mean people are more happy. It only means that you can go into a situation and change them faster. So my interest is, how can I deepen what you want to live and support you in that. So whatever you feel in the personal way, as a form that you choose. I work on 4 continents. I studied anthropology and looked at many cultures. Every life form that you can choose and fill with love is that one that you choose. So that's your private decision. Marriage by itself can sometimes support a person. You know, I feel really safe because you also care for me on a social level. So if you have a good pension and you love a woman, live with her for 15 years, so why not marry? Actually, I do weddings also for some of my closest people or for my students. So I had, in December, I was invited to do a wedding. A couple was in my workshop and they worked together for 19 years. And he was also from the 70s, 80s. He had that idea, no way, it's too limiting a marriage. And after the workshop, Love, Sexuality and Relationship, he said, you know what, you made me thinking. And then they came to a second workshop. And then I got an invitation to facilitate their wedding. Yeah, fantastic. So, and he said, you know what, I think I owe it to my partner for 20 years if something happens to me that she's taken care of. And for that reason, he said, it will not increase our love, but because I love her, I can do it. If there would be no love, then it would be an artificial form, and then it runs empty, and millions of people live like that. So only because people are married.
What about sexuality in relationships? Some people have lots of sex and others not. Is it sexuality? Is that very important in a relationship?
Again, for me it's a choice. You may love each other without sex. So I personally love sexuality and fortunately have a wife and a woman I live with so that we both can share it, you know. So all the time we have been together. I think it's more important that you take love as an exchange, and for that sexuality becomes the communication, it becomes the form of communication. And at that moment, when you combine it with love and with the understanding of communication, and not just for a sexual act and discharge, then it's a very enriching moment. Then as couples we can create something like a unity that even leads us sometimes to a moment of understanding beyond the individual capacity. That's where the oneness and unity created that is beautiful. And at the same time, it is where we come together and we are 2 individuals. We come together and we are 2 individuals. And that coming together, that is then the question of how can we, and I don't want to say learn it, but how can we nourish that coming together? And that is where the personality sometimes is supportive, and if not, we can learn it. You come to couple therapy, you do, some people, a lot of tantra groups, but then they focus on sexuality and on the spirituality. But in between, there is me, there's a personality. So in that respect, I feel sexuality is a wonderful element that most people want to experience because it's part of our nature. At the same time, in interrelationship, it becomes part of communication. And to have that as an open communication. Nobody of us has been educated by our parents in asking your partner, how do you like it? So we are used to turn off the light, and then what happens then? Instead of saying, hey, let's find out who we are. And again, when we are in love, there's never right or wrong. You give the other person the right to say, time out, I don't like that, or wow, let's explore that. When we are in love, you just allow the flow and the exchange and the beauty, and sexuality is part of it. But as it also is, we grow older, or our priorities change. You have children, I have young couples, they are tired in the night, we haven't had sex for 4 weeks, and they're 25 years old, So, and then you see, there are other moments, and that will often mean you look each other in the eyes and you say, it will be a tough day, and I still care for you. And then we got to make room, because sexuality is then an important part to bring that unity back. But you may also choose, depending on your religion, depending on your age, say, you know what, it's not on my priority. And then it's a choice then, if you want a partner like that. And so in that respect, I never have any judgment where people come from. The only thing where sexuality is used or misused or abused, so that must be addressed and must be looked at, and it must be shifted and transformed into a loving capacity.
Do you think relationships is the best place to explore yourself, explore yourself and self-development? I heard somebody say that the relationship is the best place you can mirror yourself, and you get things back, and you have to look at yourself and so on.
It's one form of it. So we have self-reflection, we have reflection with another, we have reflection in groups and society. So the question is, what do you want to discover? So if you feel I need to withdraw, I need to go in a retreat for a year, and I need to find out, or the Buddhists have a certain teaching where they go 3 years into retreats, some even longer. It is the aspect of the question, what do you want to find out, and what do you want to discover? So are you in a certain discovery of a connection with a larger existence? Do you want to explore more about your personality? For sure, to discover yourself on a level of the personality and with another, a relationship amplifies or beautifies what you carry in you.
Yes.
And I cherish that. Yes. I love that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Was the only good one.
Does love end? Is a question here.
Does love end? If I, as I described it, love as a resonance with the flow of life, and besides that, people can. Maybe I put one of my questionnaire and my article on love, sexuality, and relationship onto my website that people can look at energyandconsciousness.com or at coreevolution.com. So energyandconsciousness.com. I like to call my work energy and consciousness for the openness, so of where we do a lot of explorations in many fields, with spiritual teachers, with therapeutic teachers, with consciousness teachers. And core evolution is really the therapeutic level, the therapeutic aspect where we train people in trauma therapy, in body-oriented, in mindfulness-centered work. So people can go into depth and ask me also questions. So if you have more questions about that. But in terms of end of love, if it's a resonance with the flow of life, love has no end. So in that respect, what we understand sometimes, I don't love you anymore. You see that in movies.
Where does that come from?
Yeah, where does that come from? Right. So the question is, we have the capacity, when we are in tune with that flow, to direct that flow. I sometimes give a workshop that I call Allow the flow and give the flow direction. And that is what we gotta do in life. I feel it. You can be, oh, I feel it with a higher power. Great. What do you do with that? If you can't contribute the higher power to the benefit and good of others, the question is, do I want to direct life? Do I want to direct my love? That's where I say the will of the heart. And that way where the log comes back in. You know what? I want to be with you and I want to make it work. That means I put log on the fire. That means I want to work on myself. I want to find out who you are. So that means here comes an aspect of love that's very often not talked about. For me, there is a will to love. It's voluntary effort.
Yeah.
If I feel the love and flow in me, and I want to bring it over, you got to do something. That unconditional love, that's universal, fine. But if I want to share and contribute, then I need to do something. Not as a deed, I want to. So in that respect, there's a will to love. And if you withdraw that, and you feel, no, I'm out here. So and that's where I feel we got to learn to separate in love. I had that today again. I mean, I gave some sessions today, and you face it again and again. When the person says, yeah, but I don't want to. I don't want to give energy anymore. Oh, then I say, you just said it. You don't want to give energy anymore. But stay with the love for that person. It's the same when somebody is left. That person I had, she was left by the partner, and a deep pain and anger and everything mixed up, you know, until we could separate the pain and the anger and still the hurt that underneath and the abandonment. And I don't want to destroy my love. I don't want to stop my love that I feel. And very often then comes that false protection. I protect my heart so I cannot be hurt anymore. You know, and once you come into that strength and your own self-love, you know, yeah, I can be left again. And it will be painful, but I still want to love. I still want to love, you know. And that is a willingness to love and face what life has to offer. And that is the beauty of it, and also sometimes a painful experience.
Yes.
And I think we all had our share of that too.
Yeah, but that's a big issue in all the songs and everything. People, when they split up, they're in this big depression and such. How do you get fast out of that depression? You feel bad when somebody's left you. That's something you have to deal with, but what is it?
A lot of people then look immediately for the next. So
yeah.
Which is no solution. You know? So it may help temporarily until you find the next and the next. So it is a moment where you feel, what creates that pain in me? What is that moment that I feel deeply hurt? And how can I see that little boy that had been abandoned, or the man that suffered my pride, you know? I wanted to give everything and she just left, you know. So devastating. And then I don't feel good about me. I may not be good enough. Maybe the other guy was sexually better or looked better. Whatever we come up with criticism that we already carry inside of us but never look at it. So in that moment it's a self-reflection, self-work, and very often people need help then for that, or support in it, because depression, the repression of expression creates depression. So
that was a good one too.
Say
it one more time.
That's, I tell it to psychiatrists when they say, oh, depressed. That's the repression of expression creates depression.
Yeah.
Whenever I have a person that I'm so depressed, even when they're under medication, you know, which million people are these days, I mostly then come to a place and ask, what would you like to express? What would you like to move as a body-oriented psychotherapist? Make it a gesture. Doesn't make sense. It's not there anyway. Do it anyway. And then they come to a deeper breathing, and already when you have a deeper breath, you come to another expression in your out-breath. So that means there's a movement taking place. And with that movement, the person comes more to life. And we see aliveness, of course, you are confronted again with the issue that you want to escape from. So that means you need a ground. And that is very often not understood. We need a physical understanding of ground. I'm connected. I feel good in my body. In that moment I can feel. I have feelings in my body. And then we need to have the capacity to formulate our feelings. So when I have my physical ground, my emotional ground, my conceptual ground, then I can connect with something much larger than me. And from that place I feel safe in the world. I can come out again, and I know it's not just the other that I need in my dependency. I can be on my own ground and move out of the depressed state. So, and that, to a great degree, I can see that again and again and again. So in that moment you can meet the other for who you are, not because I need somebody else. So in that moment you feel, yeah, I'm open to meet again. And that is when I bring sometimes even in, because we say forgiveness, we say how can I make peace. In that moment you are energetically free to say, you know what, I thank you for that I could love you. Even to the person who had left you or you felt pain about. But let's say every time you feel invited to love, if that is, let's say, resonated in us, there is something, people are sometimes have the capacity to get us out of our reserve, shyness, defense, and you feel, I love. That's why I say don't fall into love. I say step into love. And once you step into love, you have your own ground. And then I can meet you.
Yes.
And that's beautiful. So, I think, and I mean, hey, even after decades and decades, I love to love.
Yes, that's, I hope lots of
That's
people
why
feel
you,
that.
yeah, I feel that in you too.
Yes,
We love
I
to
agree.
love in
Yes.
different ways.
I love
right?
it.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to look at things we have been talking about here.
Yeah.
So, sick minds, bodies, emotions and spirits due to love deceptions or misconceptions.
What's that?
As a health professional, you have frequently you come across sick minds, bodies, emotions, spirits. That's due to love deceptions or misconceptions, misunderstandings.
I would never use the term sick mind, so there are no sick minds. So there are only distorted way of forming a mind. See, out of the perception of a sensation in our body, out of the feelings that creates, and out of the thinking that creates a mind. So, so we have a body, feeling, thinking, mind continuum. It's a constant interaction that we have there. So there are no sick minds, but there can be distortions in that continuum, in that matrix. And that distortion we got to find out.
Yes.
Whether it's early trauma, whether it's early abandonment, so whether it's early attachment issues. All this is kind of moments that can also then create psychosomatic issues, because I work together with a lot of doctors, a lot of MDs. So, and to see, and people come to me with different psychosomatic issues or medical issues, and then I cooperate and work together with doctors, and we find out how can we support each other. In some things I want that they go and have a very clear diagnostic or very clear analysis, so and then so that we can make sure, okay, in the moment you can remedy that on a medical level, sometimes even to the degree of operation. But then we still got to come, like that woman who came to me and said, I had to let my breast be operated, but I don't want to do the chemo, and I want to work what I need to work to find out where are my distortions and limitations. That doesn't mean we heal the cancer. That means we find the pathways that could lead to situations that possibly contributed to it. Because it's always a multi-factor when we develop a sickness, and we call it sickness. But it's not a sick mind. It's a distortion in that continuum, in the body-mind continuum, and with that in the psychosomatic unity that we are. So more clarity we can bring in general, some more healthy we experience life. And some people have to deal with physical issues. They come already with physical issues, they have genetic situations. So in that respect we got to still see how can we, with that limitation, live the capacity of love to its fullest degree that's possible for that person. And that's a very challenging moment. I love to work on all these levels, different level of our appearances of life.
In your work with patients, do you use any special techniques? Do you use any hypnosis, or how do you get into people's traumas? How do you? You do more talking? Or?
After almost 40 years of practice, of course I begin talking when the person comes. But then I choose the technique that's needed in the moment to meet that person. Whether you're a beginner or whether you are experienced a therapist yourself, that come to me, and then I can see what is needed. Do we need movement? Do we need to have some expression? Do we need to have emotional catharsis? Do we only have a subtle movement and understanding that becomes organismic, internal? Do we talk? Do I do a visualization? Do I move and dance and express? Do I use art? In my practice I have everything there. Or you may even lean against the mattress or lie down and breathe. So all that. So
but different people need different solutions.
That's the thing, absolutely. My approach, of course, is body-oriented, mindfulness-centered. That means that if we need to, I look at the body, how do you hold the flow of life? And if that needs movement, I invite you to move. And then with that invitation, the person will open up the situation, and blocked energy can be done with muscles, can be done with breathing, can be done with tissue on the physical level. And every blocked energy is there to control feelings. When we are born, we control our feelings already with our breathing. You scream or you split and tie up. So since we are born, the diaphragm is regulating our feelings. Or so everybody of us regulates feelings from early on with our breathing. So if I see that, I need to go to the breathing. If I see somebody's breathing as a shock, breathing in the chest, every good talking and every good spiritual solution will only reach until that person is out the door. So I need to see how I can shift the pattern, or invite the person to shift the pattern, so that big insight that they have can be carried and feel, oh, I feel it in me, not just as an idea. So from there then I may also feel, you know what, you had a great insight, let's sit together again and talk. What is the meaning for that in your life, in your relationship and so on. So that means there's also conceptual integration that I feel important about. And some you just lead into great moments. Let's say I had a young alcoholic guy, his father who had worked with me sent him. That boy was 26 years old, and he of course was opposed to everything. He didn't want to do therapy, only his father sent him. So, and I don't want to work against somebody, I want to work with you, you know? So I have my heart with you, you know, I feel empathic about you, but he felt that, and he started talking, and then he had been electrocuted by the police with a stick, you know, and since then he was so wired. And I felt, you know what, maybe I do something very uncommon. And I have big gongs in my practice, you know. big gongs
Gongs?
that I play, yeah.
Okay.
Big gongs, big gongs. Planetary gongs, And you know what I said? Would it be okay if you lie down? And just lay down, and I guided him into some breathing. And he quieted down a little bit, so he regulated his body. And then I felt, you know what? It's normally not part of my therapy, but I was just in my own rooms, I started just playing the gongs, and they make a huge vibration. You can hear that sometimes for a mile. So, and after a minute or two, he fell in deep sleep. So I let him sleep for 15, 20 minutes, just sat there, played the gongs, and then I sat there, and when he woke up, he felt his eyes were present, his face was radiant. Now he said, "Whoa, what happened?" He said, So I said, "Yeah, you just allowed yourself to reconnect with you." So just as an example, I try to reconnect the person with the quality in them. So this intervention I do maybe once in 5 years. So in general, I talk, I move, we express, we have also sometimes catharsis. And if you have hidden anger, I may invite you to express some of the anger. I work from rage to bliss. People know that. Or they come with their experience of death or fear of death, and they know I have been through a death experience when I was 5, and I don't have that fear, and I can go with you into that moment. And people who face death or have a terminal disease and so on. So that whole range of experience, in that understanding, I meet you with my empathic capacity, and I guide you from where I can meet you. So there's no fixed expectation, and you can really feel invited into the process. So that's what the flow of love can do. So,
can you, thank you for all your insights. Usually we have an ending here where you can tell the world, give the world a message. Is there anything you want to say to the camera?
The message here.
A special message for the world. Anything?
Yeah. So one of the deepest messages that, of course, love is a flow, and flow is change. And in that moment, when we allow to change without that fear, because in that moment we fear change, we hold again the flow of life. And as much we hold on to it, it is the greatest savior when we allow the flow of life with breathing, when we take life in, enrich that with our capacity, personal capacity, the oxygen connects to the blood, so, and then runs through my body, through my veins, takes in a part of me, and with my out-breath, I breathe out a part of me. And you breathe that in. So that means there is no separation. That is an illusion. Separation is an illusion. The same when I do with my biophoton research on light, that cells communicate with light. So we share breath and light with each other as human beings. So in that moment when we can allow the flow and work in our integration, personally and professionally, to share that for the benefit of all sentient beings, then I think we can be in harmony with each other, in deep understanding. And that's what I teach, and that's from where I live my life. And I invite you to radiate that into the world.
Thank you.
So in that moment you step into love, you don't fall into love. You take the responsibility for your life and being.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I look forward to hear from you, if you have further questions and about the work or about other questions in life that you have. I feel open. So you see the email on www.coreevolution.com.
Yeah, we'll put it up here.
Or energyandconsciousness.com. Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming, Siegmar.